Meltzer, maybe Meltzer will like it. Let's fucking do it. I already told you that's my goal.
I already mixed it up.
Here on 3 Count Commentaries, I don't really like the conception of being an anti-smart. In a lot of ways, anybody who talks about wrestling, and especially people who read dirt sheets, man, you are a smart. But so I don't think I just think that some people are more measured than others. Some people are prisoners of the moment. They rip and run around the internet and they talk about how whatever new thing happened is the best thing that happened. They talk about everybody being a superstar or everybody's going to be a very big deal. That this is a star-making performance, and it's people do too much of that stuff. They project too much into the internet. They project too much into the world about how everybody's going to be a big star. Everybody's going to be yada, yada, yada. I always try to talk about people's potential, about what I see in them as far as their potential is concerned. But one of the things that I always say, and it's not a thing that I started, but it's one of the things that I've said quite a bit on this channel, is that the marks are in the ring. And that's really what some of the biggest marks are the people in the ring. So shortly after I recorded my AEW Dynamite review, so this is a bonus segment, I see people have clipped out, well, AEW posted it. They posted a video of the post-match between Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa, and everybody's giving them a standing ovation. Everybody's coming out there clapping, and Tony Khan's talking about how great it is. And then they start talking about Meltzer. They start talking about how Dave Meltzer, how Dave's going to give it 5 stars, and how this episode of Dynamite is a special episode, so it's available to win awards in the Observer. And then we get Britt Baker, who is supposedly the star of the show, laying on a gurney on her stomach as they pull thumbtacks out of her bag. And they're talking about, well, I hope Dave likes it. I hope Meltzer likes it. That's my goal. And I just sit there and I say to myself, when the fuck did the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Awards become the Oscars? When did that become the gold standard of what is real and profitable and mainstream and important in the wrestling business? When the fuck did that happen? You know what? As a matter of fact, I don't think it did happen. I think AEW is a company that is searching for validation, as all new companies do. So that's what this video is going to be about. It's not going to be about me ripping on Britt Baker, even though I'm going to rip on Britt Baker a little bit for being a mark. A mark for a mark, by the way. So I'm not going to drill in on her, because I don't like to talk about individual people, because it's not just her. It's her boss, too. It's the people in that circle, too. It's when AEW's tweeting out Best Booker and Promoter of the Year awards. This is a company that is searching for validation, but to be quite honest, what it is a marketing gimmick. That's all Oscars, that's all award shows are. I've seen a lot of people talk about various celebrities and all these like the Grammys just happened, right, over the course of the last week. There were the Grammy Awards with the grotesque Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion, even though Stallion is a male horse, their performance, and people have been disgusted. People are always complaining about who won Grammys and who didn't win Grammys. To be quite honest, man, people who are truly the best, who are really good, very rarely win Grammys. Grammys are a high level of virtue signaling. It matters to the people within the organization. If you're already in the industry, that's what the Grammy is. Grammy is a recognition from the industry that you've done very well in the industry. People outside of the music space don't give a fuck about Grammys. They like what they like. But it's nice to be able to put it on a CD cover, to be able to put it on a poster, to be able to put it on a magazine. Grammy award-winning Megan Thee Stallion, right? That doesn't mean she's actually good. It just means that there's people within the industry who likes her enough to give her an award. And these awards don't mean anything. To be quite honest, there are very few awards that mean anything. Literary awards, all this stuff has been Oscars, all this type of stuff has been tainted for years and years anyway. Due to diversity quotas, due to, bait, quote unquote, and that's what they were doing here. They're trying to create Meltzer bait, and they're trying to create Oscar bait, trying to create Grammy bait albums. Now that people have figured out, okay, we can try to manipulate the system to get these people to help us market our program. We can get more people to watch our program if we can win more awards. Right? It's just a marketing gimmick. But it's quite shameful. I find it to be very shameful and actually quite embarrassing for the business that you went and rolled around in thumbtacks, gigged yourself and crimson masked yourself, and your goal was to get 5 stars from Dave Meltzer. That was the goal. Not to, and look, here's a very weird thing, because I saw the cult start doing this immediately. This is the turning point for women's AEW division. The AEW women's division needed this. They finally arrived because one match was raved about online. Out of the whole time they've been on TV, for over a year, they just stunk up the joint last week. They had one legitimately good match. The AEW women's division is a stamp of approval. It's better than every women's division in the world. Britt Baker is the new Stone Cold. She's better than Becky Lynch. I've seen that now. Oh, Britt Baker, she bled more than Becky Lynch, so he's a bigger star than Becky Lynch. I'm like, God, what the fuck is going on here? And it says a lot. And it has to be pretty strong juju that when the marks are in the ring, then what the fuck are the people watching? If the marks are in the ring, then what are the people watching? What kind of new mark do we have now? Like, we call them cultists, but is that even a strong enough word? There has to be. You call people lemmings. They like baby ducks following the big duck around. What is going on? And I understand that sometimes people are prisoners of the moment. They get real excited about something that's great or something that's really good, and they get lost in it, But to be quite honest, man, this stuff it's almost a turnoff, because you feel like yourself, like, even when you want to give them credit, it's almost like you're forced to be more critical than you want to be. Like, I really didn't want to be that critical of the match, other than I think it's completely unnecessary that they bleed so much, or that the match didn't really make much sense, other than, certain parts of the match made sense. But, it was what it was. They put on a spectacle. That's what it was. AEW likes to do the blood and guts spectacles. It's something different from what WWE is doing. But are they doing it for the mainstream blood and guts audience? Or are they doing it to appease some bastard in San Jose? In the hopes that he is going to market and promote their company, which he's been doing already anyway. He's already in the bag. He's already marketing and promoting AEW Dynamite every single week. He does it, and they all do it. All of the little Mark websites, they all do it, either directly or indirectly. I've heard, and you can't verify because I don't really listen to that many separate opinions anymore. So especially since I started doing my own podcast and talking and doing this different stuff. Well, the YouTube channel, which is kind of like a podcast. I just recorded in sections. But this idea that we are going to play to Meltzer, and then you have the YouTube channels also playing to Meltzer. They're leaning into the same thing Meltzer leans into. They decide, okay, well, NXT is not important. We're not going to talk about it. I've heard people say that NXT was banned. They don't even talk about it anymore. I don't know how true that is, but I think that's kind of weird that people who follow wrestling don't follow a wrestling show, especially since it was the wrestling show that everybody claimed was the best show. They don't even follow it anymore. Weird. That it was a trend that kind of started because Meltzer talks effusively about AEW, doesn't talk that well about NXT, or they just don't spend a lot of time on NXT, however it goes. I don't know that much about it. Again, I don't listen to it, but I've had it relayed to me that this is how it's begun. And from some of the podcasts that I've actually listened to, I have seen that's how it goes, that people spend a lot more time on AEW than they spend on NXT. They don't even really talk about it that much. So that means that they're helping to promote AEW. In most cases, they're using WWE to promote AEW. They've been doing that for years. They've been doing that for at least 15, 20 years. They did it with TNA. They did it with Ring of Honor. They did it with Lucha Underground. They did it with ECW. You know, they're doing it now. They did it with Ring of Honor. It is strange that these are the kinds of prisoners of the moment. We're going to force the issue that, you know, now that they've had a definitive blood and guts women's match, now they're better than WWE because they're willing to let the women go out there and bleed and fight and scratch and claw. And I'm just kind of like, why can't we just say, this is a good start? You know, the division is very rocky. The division is still, they're trying their best to validate this division. Like the company itself needs validation. That's why they always talk about, we can try to win awards from Meltzer. They're already searching and scratching and clawing for any type of validation they can get. But the women's division has been specifically, very, very specifically targeted as a weakness of the company. Okay? That has been something that people have been talking about for a long, long time. And every time something good happens for the women's division of AEW, it is heralded like Simba over the mountaintop. Like, this is, you mean their women's division sucks when they do stuff like this? And you're like, will you cool it down? What we're supposed to be looking for here is consistency, right? Like WWE has a problem with consistency because they produce so much content. So they don't feature the women the same way every week. You know, some weeks they may get more time, some weeks they get less. Some weeks they get a longer match, a bigger pay-per-view match. Some weeks they get the main event, some weeks they get less. I've seen people say that, like, oh, WWE hand-fisted women into the main event, then bludgeon you with history. While AEW, they built a 4-month feud between these two women to culminate in the main event, like a real main event. And I was kind of like, dude, will you relax? WWE's first women's main event was years ago. It wasn't the 4 Horsewomen either. It was Trish Stratus and Lita. So we're talking a long time ago. That barrier is long broken. You know, we got to stop being prisoners of the moment. Marks for the moment. Okay? So the fans are a real problem. But like I said, the biggest problem is the people in the ring. If your goal is to destroy your body, shred yourself up, fall all over the place, shorten your own career, gig and bleed and risk all type of disease or whatever, just so Meltzer can give you credit, just so Meltzer can pat you on the back. You can get head pats from Dave Meltzer, a guy who has never done anything. That is embarrassing. And that says a lot about AEW and how their growth is being stunted. Okay, is being stunted. And I'm sorry to see it, you know, because look, Britt Baker does have tremendous potential as a performer. She does. She is a good heel. She was great as a arrogant, somewhat cowardly heel, tactical, you know, and then of course on a dime she split and became Bloody Mary, who wants to bleed and do thumbtacks and all that type of stuff. But I mean, we'll take it in stride. Britt Baker is really good. You know, she was actually one of the better women's wrestlers. She came along. You know, she was kind of cringe at first, but she came along. And a lot of people have been giving her a lot of credit for a lot of time now. And she's been consistent. That's the good thing. Britt Baker has consistently elevated her game. And it's led to her getting injured a lot because she's in the ring with people who are not always well trained. Okay, so I get it that you really want a breakout star for this women's division, and Britt Baker was handpicked to be the one when she signed. Okay, when she signed, she was going to be the star of the show. She was the top babyface in the women's division, and they were going to do the old build the babyface up to win the title, and then people started to really dislike Britt Baker, and then so they build her up as the top heel, and it ended up being even better. But I start to view her a lot differently. It's not just the killing of kayfabe when everybody is out there clapping. And I hated it when NXT did it, by the way, when Sasha Banks and Bayley had a good match, and then Triple H is out there bringing flowers, and everybody's standing on the ring apron clapping, and everybody's on the ramp clapping, and they're chanting and everything. It's like, and the girls are in the ring crying, talking about thank you so much. I hated it then. Okay. Let me live in the moment that two people hated each other so much that they were out there bleeding and fighting and willing to kill one another. If I can only have that for 2 minutes before you upload some video. Now, it's a completely different thing if I see Steve Austin and Bret Hart talking about their epic WrestleMania match 2-3 years after it happened. I can believe that a grudge is over after 2 or 3 years. But after 2 minutes? But then again, that would be people who are trying to maintain kayfabe. These people have completely thrown kayfabe out of the window. It's all just a theater performance. Afterwards, everybody come out, they hold hands, they take a bow. It's like fucking Cirque du Soleil. You have your big finishing number, then everybody circles around the big set pieces, waving at the audience. Thank you guys for coming. I'll see you guys later. And then roll the credits. That's not what pro wrestling is supposed to be. And that's very odd that they're trying to win awards for being a great wrestling company, and they're completely violating all the tenets of wrestling. Very weird. So I understand it, but this doesn't play to the general audience. The general audience doesn't give a fuck about Wrestling Observer Newsletter Awards. You know, you need to be worried about your sponsorships. You need to be worried about all the blood and guts and whether TNT is going to be like, okay, this is a good idea. And of course, you need to worry also about whether women doing all this stuff is welcome. It's one thing for men to do it. People are still uneasy about men doing it. But people really, really, really don't like when women are out there bleeding and hitting each other and rolling around in thumbtacks. People don't like that stuff. You know? But as long as Daddy Meltzer likes it, what can I say? I'm just a humble YouTuber with like 500 subscribers. I'm not a guy with 30 years of, well, I am a guy watching wrestling for like 30 years. But I haven't been running a newsletter. Let's put it like that. So we're in a weird position that that people are now looking for validation from folks who've never done it as a way of feeling complete in their careers, rather than Britt Baker looking at Tony Khan and saying like, okay, you need to add a 0 to my check for all this shit I just did. You know, or if anything, as long as Tony Khan was happy with it, that should have been good. As long as the Tony Khan and the audience was happy, that should have been it. Whether the critics care, who the fuck cares what they think? Right? That's what, as I run this channel, that's my opinion of it. It's like, yeah, I give analysis for critics. My opinion is not representative of the general audience. I'm not the general audience. That's why when I started this video, I said, I don't like being an anti-smart, because that's what I am. I read dirt sheets. I know the ins and outs. I'll listen to shoot interviews. I'm a little bit more educated than the average person, right? So I'm not an anti-smart because I am a smart. And most people are, you know, most people are that watch AEW, let's put it like that. So I already know what they're doing here, but I don't see how it plays to a general audience. I don't know if the general audience will accept this. Hopefully they do. Maybe they will. Is this a star-making performance for Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa? Maybe. How about we let that audience figure it out for themselves and stop telling them that's what is happening? It became like a cult. Everybody, every no name in the AEW locker room was tweeting out, our women's division has arrived. We got the best women's division on the planet. And it was getting like 500 likes. And I'm thinking to myself, they just announced Nyla Rose versus Tay Conti next week. Let's see if this momentum hangs. How about that? How about we wait for some consistency here? It's too much to ask for. All right, man. Thank you guys for your time. And I'll talk to you guys later.
Yeah, shed light, shed light, shed light. I know what that's like.